Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome into this week's episode of Smart Money Sundays. Actually, it's, of course, Monday. With a bank holiday today, we typically won't do the Smart Money Sundays on Sundays since there's typically no volatility throughout the day on Monday. So take that bit of an extra day for a break and come back on Monday with some kind of higher time frame analysis for you guys. So I promise I don't forget about you all. When there's a bank holiday, we just postpone it a little bit. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into things, starting off here on EURUSD. And really, not a lot has changed since last time we spoke in terms of the levels that we're looking at on the higher time frame, right? If you'll recall, on EURUSD, we really wanted to see price trade deeper down into at least 1.06, if not the 1 hour down close candle here at 1.0550. Right, and really for the last couple of weeks, we've just been kind of consolidating, or really last week, just kind of chopping around and channeling to the downside, and we haven't seen that volatility injection just yet because we haven't traded into the true level. All right, and so in these instances is when we just need to remain patient, right? And really, in my opinion, you can look for potential, buy to sells intraday for continuations lower into objective, into 1.06 or into 1.0550 as a secondary level. And then obviously those levels are going to be the more highly probable because it would be following the higher time frame. So if we step out to the 4 hour, right, you'll recall that this is that last higher low that produced that last higher high, which granted did trade into 1.1, right? And so that is a significant level for your EURUSD, right? And if we do break, I wouldn't be surprised, right? We'll just react and adapt, but until then, we'll continue to trade with this structure until it breaks, right? So that's, again, 1.06, 1.0550, looking for a bounce from there, right, for another potential higher high, right? Trading back up into 1.11, which is really where I think we can see price dig into, right? Where we had that kind of last buy to sell, that up close that ran equal highs, right? 1.11. All right, so that's EURUSD. Now GBPUSD, on the other hand, has traded into its down close candle, right? But just given the fact that EURUSD, and when you're about to see AUDUSD, both of those pairs have not traded into their respective levels, right? It gives me pause when looking at, obviously, continuations long here on GBPUSD, right? So we did trade into this 1 hour down close, right? But this to me just doesn't really necessarily look like a low in the market. Yes, we did have relative equal lows, but we just kind of didn't really see much manipulation or accumulation. We just kind of traded away from that level. So that leads me to believe, in addition to the fact that EU hasn't traded into its level and AUDUSD hasn't traded into its level, that we could potentially see one more run on the lows on GBPUSD. All right, so be on the lookout for that. And of course, should we break above this high here, this manipulative spike, then of course, we can look for continuations. But until then, I think we can see one more pass before we see that push higher. Okay, but if we go ahead and run higher and breach this level, then we're good to take it on the pullback. Okay. We certainly could react off of this previous low, right? 1.212, right? And then see that final run lower. Could see a kind of London open or New York open buy to sell, which could take us for that last push to the downside, right? And as I was just saying, AUDUSD also has not traded into its respective level, right? The down close candle here, really, really clean down close, sell to buy, right? With the engulfing institutional candlestick, right? Entering into the market, institutional volume, right? I really do think we need to trade into that. This simply isn't a low in the market, right? So we are going to run this low, right? And before that happens, I do think that we could run this internal high, this inducement, right? Maybe trade up into this area here, kind of around 6,960 into 6,980, right? To then get that final push lower into our higher time frame level, where we then could be looking for accumulation, sell to buy, and then push higher. right? So hopefully, you're starting to see the narrative, the theme here with these XXX-USD pairs. We're just not quite ready yet, to kind of shift momentum back up to the upside. All right, but potentially seeing those midweek reversals on these pairs, we're getting there, guys. It's just been slow and choppy, and we don't want to get, wrapped up in the noise, the intraday noise, as I like to call it. We have to stick to the higher time frame levels and trust in those levels and not get carried away. All right. Now USD Swissy, same deal here, right? I do think, we obviously have the higher high. We had the relative equal lows here, that manipulation, sell to buy into this supply to demand flip, right? So we created that higher low and then the higher high in the sequence. Now engineering sell side liquidity to potentially be run out into market discount, 9190 for potentially one more continuation higher, looking at this previous high as the draw on liquidity. So I do think we can potentially run it one more time, right, up through that high and then maybe spill over from there, right? Just falling into alignment, obviously the inverse of EURUSD, right? So when we're ready to potentially sell EU, we should be looking to potentially buy USD Swiss and then vice versa, okay? So that is Swissy. EURGBP, right, is another one that, obviously created that kind of higher low and the higher high in the sequence. We had that level of demand that we traded into, right? And then the counter trend, the lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, break higher, looking for that pullback into market discount, right? Filling up some of this inefficiency created within this candlestick here, this massive engulfing candlestick, right? Looking at 8840, right, for a continuation, right? So looking for that sell to buy, continuation. All right, and then obviously this high as the target. All right, so pretty simple, pretty straightforward there, guys. Retracement, break of counter trend, pullback, continuation. All right, GBP Swiss franc is another one that we gave out last week. A nice demand to supply flip. Obviously, pretty nice reaction here from this level that was given out. Now we are kind of just trickling away from that level. So we, of course, could see one more pass, right, and then the spillover. I certainly wouldn't be surprised to get further into premium, right, within this trading range before we make that push lower, which I think we can draw into this previous low, right, at 1.1050. Right, so I think this should be the target to draw on liquidity, right, and if we do get that push higher, don't be afraid to look for additional selling opportunities right down into this pool of liquidity. All right, 1.1050. All right, so pretty simple, straightforward on that one as well. All right. EUROJPY, right? This is a beautiful opportunity that we've been, again, talking about for a long time. It's just been a lot of, again, noise in between, right? So we have to trust these higher time frame levels and not get kind of trapped or involved in this kind of garbage. It's going to do nothing but irritate you, all right? So trust the higher time frame level, right? This is the demand to supply flip, massive engulfing candlestick, massive institutional liquidity entering into the market, right? And this is simply just corrective. Why do we have that conviction? Well, we created very clean equal lows here, which will be the draw on liquidity. All right, think about the law of effort, right? The time it took to get down here and the time it's taking to retrace. Again, another confluence that we ought to, as we trade into this area of interest, right, and into premium, right, we should have a nice swinging opportunity to the downside. All right, so we are getting up into that. I do believe this is going to take place this week. All right, we're starting to distribute. All right, you can see the slowdown in momentum. There's kind of chopping, engineering, liquidity. I wouldn't be surprised to see kind of this, the sell model that we like to see, a swift move lower, very swift move higher, right, and then the breach, right, the break. That would be the confirmation, right? That's the type of model we love to see, right? Gets people involved prematurely, the retail traders, takes them out, and then dies. All right, so I wouldn't be surprised to see that. Just be patient with it. If you don't get the initial opportunity, then you'll certainly be able to take multiple opportunities as we as we then head to the downside with the equal lows being the next objective. All right, so this is probably my favorite setup coming into this week. All right, and we'll have lots of opportunities to capitalize on that. All right. CADJPY, very similar. Right, if we are to continue to go long, I do think we need to at least trade down into here. Right, you remember I gave out 100 as that initial focal point. Right, you can see we did trade in a little bit higher into the up close here at 100.2. And again, I'm not necessarily looking at this as a high in the market, just not seeing the manipulation, not seeing the volume. Right, so I wouldn't be surprised to see, again, similar situation, right? Another pass, another run on the highs, right? And then the spillover, and then we can capitalize on it to the downside. First targets obviously being our first area of demand where we could potentially go long again from, right? But if EURJPY is going to make a massive swing to the downside, then I would expect this one too as well, okay? So another potential opportunity here on CADJ, just have to be patient, right? Let them weed out the retail traders, right? Wait for that extra confirmation. Don't jump the gun on it. All right, NZDJPY. And this one's a little bit different, right? NZD is still relatively strong, right? You can see the counter trend that formed here. We broke the counter trend higher. This to me appears corrective, right? Corrective in nature. Right, with this being the manipulation. All right, so I do think on this one we could potentially dig back down into 83.2, right, for a potential move higher, right? And reason being, I do think on the higher time frame on this cross that we can get up into at least 86, right? At least 86, where we had this big institutional, obviously massive engulfing candlestick, right? And we've just been chopping around, engineering liquidity, the buy side. So if we can get up into premium, then we could potentially see another run lower, seeking the liquidity resting beneath these lows. Okay, so can use this down close here as the focal point, right? Again, 83.20 for a potential push higher through these highs into 86 as the target. All right, so a little bit different on this one, and it's typically the case, right? NZDJPY and AUDCAD typically do their own thing relative to some of these other yen pairs like EJ and CJ. Okay. All right. AUDCAD. You'll recall that this is the level I gave out to you all a couple of weeks ago, right? Beautiful level, beautiful reaction. Obviously to the T, nice wick entry. I do think this one needs to trade at least into the hourly down close candle here, right at 9193. We simply haven't done that yet. I'm not viewing this as a low in the market. All right, and so we are trading into this bit of demand to supply flip, right now at the moment, right? And so I didn't place a limit. Obviously today was a bank holiday. As we traded up into this level, I would simply be looking for one more pass on the high, whether that be maintaining this, right, or potentially making a kind of last run on liquidity, potentially running out this high here. I don't really care, right? I'm just looking for the buy to sell, right, and I'll take it on the pullback. Buy to sell on the break of structure and look to trade it into 9193. Right, we have a very strong level that is giving me confidence in continuing to look to sell into that level. All right, just a few more, guys. EURCAD. All right, EURCAD, we do have relative equal lows here that I do believe will be the draw on liquidity. I'm looking at this strong move. Again, law of effort, kind of trickling up. I'm viewing this as corrective. So I'd really like to see one last buy to sell, right? Potentially respecting this lower time frame demand here. Maybe London session, you'll get a quick little intraday buy opportunity. Want to see us trade up into this supply, right? The demand to supply flip, right? And then I want to see the subsequent break lower, right? And the continuation into our equal lows. Right, so that would be really nice to see play out there on EURCAD. I'm liking that one as well. GBPCAD, again, very similar. We have sell side liquidity with these equal lows here, right, which will be the draw in my opinion. We have traded into this inefficiency here, kind of have relative equal highs, although this did run this high. I'm not necessarily seeing this, right? I don't really see this as a valid sponsor candle. I do think we can run it, right? Just like EUROCAD, and then push lower, right? So be on the lookout for a buy to sell, just using time and price as that confluence, right? London open or New York open between 2 and 4 a.m. or between 7 and really 9:30, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right? We should be seeing that price action and looking for those entries in the direction that we believe will be the draw in liquidity, all right? So that is GBPCAD. Nothing crazy in terms of a POI here. That's why I'm looking for simply the price action. All right, and the last one is CAD Swiss franc. This is one, it's very choppy, right? Very choppy, kind of range bound, but I do think we could potentially seek out the liquidity resting above these equal highs. Right, you'll notice on the lower time frames, right, that we did have this down close, higher high, right? Accumulation, trading into down close, higher low, higher high, trading back down into that last point of return. All right, so I'd really like to see us accumulate here, especially if we get back above this high. That should be good for quick pullback and the continuation into our equal highs. All right, but again, keep in mind, we are kind of ranging, so we certainly could trade lower through all of these lows and then make that push higher. All right, so just be wary of that. All right, just keep this one on your radar. It's not the most ideal opportunity in my opinion, but it's just something to think about. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you're prepared, ready to tackle this week. We've got some good opportunities presenting themselves. Again, just need to remain patient as always, as the patient trader always gets paid. All right, we'll talk to you again next week. Thanks.